Welcome to the Year 5 strategy for part unknown questions or whole unknown questions. In this lesson I'm learning to identify whether a question requires me to use the Year 5 part unknown strategy or the Year 5 whole unknown strategy. Now before you start this lesson you must be really good at the other Year 5 lessons that we've already looked at. So let's start with this question here, and our first aim is to work out whether this is a part unknown or a whole unknown question. A school has 20 old desks. They want to sell 2/5 of them. How many desks do they want to sell? Well, I'm going to start by writing in the information that I know. I can see the fraction here, 2/5, so I'm going to write that in, 2/5. And now my next job is to work out, is this 20 here, is that the whole amount or part of the amount? Well, if I read the question again, I can see that the school has got 20 desks and they're wanting to sell 2/5 or part of them. So the whole amount is 20 and I'm trying to work out this part amount. So you can see just by reading through the question carefully, we've worked out that this is a part unknown question and we can solve it using that method. So my denominator tells me that these 20 desks have been shared into 5 groups. So to do that I'm going to need to use division. 20 shared into 5 groups. Well, I know 20 divided by 5 is 4. And you can see in this question they've even given you a little picture to help you imagine those 5 groups. Now you can also see that there's 2 groups here which are shaded. That's because we're interested in 2 groups. So I'm going to write down here 2 groups of 4 desks. Well, I know 2 groups of 4 is 8. So now I can fill in the missing number 8, or 2/5 of 20 is 8. So they're wanting to get rid of 8 desks. Let's try another question. Let's look at this question here and see if we're going to need to use our whole unknown or part unknown strategy. Peter has found 3/4 of the items on his shopping list in 30 minutes. How long will it take him to find all of the items on his list? And it says that they all take the same amount of time to find. Well, you can see there's a little diagram here to help us. You can see that it's split into 4 parts, and that's meant to represent the shopping list, broken into 4 parts. And we know it's broken into 4 parts because our denominator here told us. And we're interested in 3 parts, and you can see these bits shaded down here. So I'm going to come over here and add that fraction into our equation. 3/4. So now I need to think, does this 30 minutes that they're talking about in the question, does that represent the whole amount of time or part of the amount of time? Well, if I look at the question again, I can see that it's taken him 30 minutes to find 3/4 of the items on his list, not all of the items on his list. So that means that 30 minutes represents finding just some or part of the items on his list. So I'm going to come over here and write 30 in the part section of my equation. So that means this must be a whole unknown question, so I can solve it using my whole unknown strategy. Now my numerator tells me that he's found 3 groups of the items on his list and that's taken him 30 minutes. So I'm going to have to share those 30 minutes between those 3 groups so I can work out how long it's taken him to find 1 group of items. Well, I know 30 divided by 3 is 10. Now my denominator tells me that in total he has to find 4 groups of items. So I've got 4 groups here, and every one of those groups he finds takes 10 minutes. So it's 4 groups of 10 minutes, and I know 4 times 10 is 40. So 3/4 of 40 equals 30. Or to answer this question over here, it's going to take him 40 minutes to find all of the items on his list. Well, let's think about the important things to remember in this lesson. Well, I like to start off by writing out the equation and leaving some blanks. I then go back to this question to find out what information I can fill into my blanks, and sometimes I even have a little diagram which helps me. Once I've done that, there's always a space remaining, and that tells me whether it's a whole unknown question or a part unknown question, and then I just solve it using that strategy. You can find the activity sheet that goes with this lesson in the Teacher Tools Fractions, Decimals and Percentages book from the Whitebook collection.